Remember, you used to read the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail and the Sunday Post, the Daily Express. My dad would get the Express during the week, even though he was by no manner of means a Tory, know your enemy kind of stuff. More just to have more information, more stuff to read, more articles, more columns, and get to know what the other side thought about things. But the Fitbit stuff, we would read, and we would see them on Scott Sport and Sports Scene and discussion programmes, all these journalists, and they're all supposed to be neutral, they're all supposed to be objective about Scottish football, and we'd be like, no way, they're biased, they're totally biased, that. Doug Bailey, I mean, he played for it. Doug Bailey played for Rangers, for God's sake. And there's his son, Lex Bailey's actually playing centre half for Celtic. He's just broke the Rangers goalkeeper's ribs. Maybe it's no as straightforward. It was that Jerry McNee, obviously totally Catholic, obviously a total Celtic daft, but yet all the Celtic supporters absolutely hate him, and they think that he's got it in for their club, and Jerry, he's written a book about the Quiet Man. He's written a book studying the film that the Quiet Man, John Ford, fundamentalist, crazy, drunken Catholic director, and the film was set in Ireland and all that. Where the best bit in the film is where they're all at the end, giving it, trying to save the Church of Ireland minister's job, and they all go and run into the local Protestants. Right, everybody, try and look like Protestants, and there's folk going to genuflect as they walk in the church. No, you can't do that. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So maybe remember Jeremy McNee on Sporting Question? Jeremy McNee on Sporting Question, and all the Celtic fans are getting ripped into him. Like, you've got it in for a club, and eventually he's just like, look, come here, look at this. And it was just, see this here? That's a medal that Jimmy McGrory gave me for ghosting his autobiography. It's Scottish Cup winners medal. Jimmy McGrory, one of the greatest goal scorer, arguably in the history of Scottish club football, and he gave me Celtic manager, Celtic all-round legend, and you're trying to tell me that. He's basically saying, I'm a Celtic fan, I grew up a Celtic fan and all that. But I mean, Jeremy McNee's famous for Jock Stein. It used to be the situation with the press, the arrangement with the media. In the days in the 60s when Jock Stein was Celtic manager, was the journalists had to stand outside, like in the pee and rain and all that, if it was raining outside, and kind of hand in an envelope with their questions for, I think, the chairman and all that to have a look over before they decide to let them go in one at a time. And McNee, a child of the 60s and all that kind of stuff, he's like, no way, man, this is just out of order. Get us in there. Press conference, treat us like human beings. We want to talk to the manager. Let's all be in the room at the same time and at least get us out there. So he's quite a revolutionary guy, Jerry McNee. But they were all biased, weren't they? They were all biased. The journalists, even though we're declaring their object. It's gone the other way now, hasn't it? It's gone the other way. The fan media, a lot of fan media try to get your fundamentalist nature of you, the football fan, try to get you on side by telling you they support your team. And supporting a lot of them clearly do, obviously, but they're trying to make it this. But you think, do you really? Are you really as kind of crazy about Rangers as you're trying to make? Sometimes it goes a bit OTT, like, don't want to go to the press conference today. It's Philip Clement. What's the point of going to see the press conference when Philip Clement is still in the situation? Earn your accreditation. Earn that There's guys out there. I couldn't walk into a press room at Ibrox or any other where I haven't trained to be a journalist. These guys have put their life into this thing. Guys that like going through divorces and stuff like that. Probably a bit of alcoholism as well if they want to be proper Scottish journalists. But not even to get to the top. Just to have that as a profession. Scottish football journalists working their backsides off, going through all sorts of crappy part-time jobs when they're doing their training and all that, and then the job itself isn't exactly a major earner, just so they can spend a life in Scottish football journalism. And you're going to mince in there with your Rangers bonnet on, giving it, I deserve to be here as well, and asking questions because I'm a fan and we should be getting, well, we've got our info. I don't really want to be knocking back the idea of going to a press conference for the manager. You want to know what's happening, don't you? You go. So get in there and earn your accreditation. If we get sack Clement, you've got the new manager bounce under Gio. We beat Sparta Prague 2-0, and then we go in Michael Beale for his first game. And his first game was the same day that the World Cup quarter-finals in Qatar. He beat Bayer Leverkusen 3-0. And then Philip Clement, we go him. The new manager bounce was beat Hibs 4-0. So if we're going to sack Clement and get a new manager and get the new guy in for when we play Celtic at Parkhead, we can do them 5-0 there, and that'd be Absolutely fantastic. How you doing, folks? This is it's Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day and we're talking about hearts. Oh, bless, isn't it? How appropriate's that? Valentine's Day and we're talking about hearts. It's appropriate if it's the kind of Valentine's Day where, like, you or your partner are in Asda or Sainsbury's or Lidl, whatever it is you go, and it's because they've got one of the deals on, and it's well, you should have went on the Thursday night. You should have went. I tell you to go on the Thursday night to get this. The lassies at work are having a nice meal in with her husband. G. Better be in there. She's up at the woman at the till giving it. Where's the wine? It goes with this deal. Where's the wine? It goes. I've got the two steaks. I've got the tatties that are already thing you do in the microwave and that thing. I've got the candles, I've got the card and the teddy bears that prove I'm romantic. Where's the wine? That's the only thing that's keeping the relationship going is the alcohol. Where is it? I think we might have run out, madam. You need to, it's just a deal for a certain limit of time. I'll not be back. So that's that kind of romance, that kind of that's pretty much concomitant with what's going on at Rangers just now amongst the Rangers support. The relationship with the club as well, it's on a shaky peg. How you doing? This is your fat ache. Rangers are playing Hearts at Tynecastle, and I never, unless we were maybe in the mid-80s, early 80s at a time where if we had lost to somebody it would have helped somebody else stop Celtic winning the league, but it would mean we were obviously in third place at least, and I didn't enjoy that then, and I certainly wouldn't enjoy that happening again. Just now, position that I would ever want to see Rangers losing the game. I've never really been in a position where I want to see Rangers losing the game, but I must admit, as much as I want to see us destroy, as much as we need to destroy Hearts on Sunday, a little part of me will really look forward to the post-match presser if we fail to beat, not because I'm particularly salacious with that kind of thing, but just to see Ronnie Esplin finish the job that he started in today's pre-match presser on Philip Clement. I'm on here ready to do a big defence of Philip Clement, or at least trying. I mean, there's no fun to be had for me in piling on the manager who's clearly struggling, and we've had one of the worst results of our history. That's the easy question, the easy aspect of it, the analysis of that result on Sunday and where we go from there is just like, no, you should. That's it. You should be, but I can't help myself. All these arguments prepared for, not so much why we should keep Clement, but just why we might keep him. Why the only real arguments are against him being sacked right now. That's only interesting stuff. Until I heard Ronnie the day at the press conference just giving it basically, why are you still here? The funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. The funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. At a press conference, I was just sitting going, what? I think he basically said to him, the fans are disappointed you're still in your situation. You're still in situ. How are you going to work through that kind of negativity? And Clement tries to give an explanation, and he says, "But that was the last straw last weekend. That was the last straw last weekend. You might think it was the last straw." And I think most people would agree with me. It was merciless. It was absolutely merciless. Fan media asking the hard questions, not a bit of it. This was proper, and I would be quite interested to see what happened on Sunday if Rangers slip up in any way at Tynecastle. Just the new main stand they've got at Tynecastle. I don't know what the press room is like, but I just imagine the door opening. The usual setup with the table there, and the press guy will come in and bring Clement in through the wee kind of back door thing at the bottom of a wee auditorium set up where all the journalists are waiting, and I can just imagine the door opening and Clement going in and Ronnie just giving it, "Where are you going? Don't you sit down there. Don't you sit. I'll be watching a movie when I get home tonight, Philip. It's called In Bruges, and that's where I want you to be by the time I'm watching that movie. There's a bus that will get you to Edinburgh Airport right now, son, and just go. You are done. Don't you sit down. That's it. It's over." A preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet tonight. 9:30. No, so it's 9 o'clock, isn't it? On a Friday night. It is going to be Craig Ray and Scott Bradley. Craig and Scott. So, who hosting, who guesting, I don't know. Both men equally skilled in both roles. Legends of the old Gersnet. So check that out. They've got a lot to get through this evening. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, but I am not sponsored by the new Volvo EX90. The new Volvo EX90, designed to be the safest Volvo car ever made. for life, not like just for life, for a life, to save your life kind of thing. Sometimes the moments that never happen are the most important. Any advert that makes you want to see a pregnant woman mowed down, not just by the Volvo EX90, but by maybe like a Volvo truck coming up behind it and a Volvo motorbike coming round the corner, a Volvo aeroplane just coming, landing right on top of her as well. Any advert that makes you want to see somebody getting annihilated, like, it really isn't doing the job it's supposed to do. There's an advert for McDonald's, £5 meals before it, and there's an advert for stool softener come on after it, and the two of them are much more preferable. It seemed like much more healthy options than this car that's boasting about the fact that it's got. I mean, it's good that it's got this thing in that will stop the car automatically if you're driving it and you don't know. But why does it have to be? It's hipster family, a young attractive woman who's pregnant. So is it okay to mow down an old lady? Is it okay to mow down somebody who's not white, for example? Who doesn't have their husband doesn't have a wee Chewbacca T-shirt, or somebody who goes, "My God, I'm pregnant." Instead of going, "I don't know how to tell you this. I'm pregnant. I'm expecting a baby." Just say it out loud. You know what I mean? Just say the thing. I'm so emotional. I'm so emotional. It's not the kind of advert that I really enjoy. The one for the Volvo EX90. I might be angry about things that have happened in other aspects of my life. Perhaps Valentine's night. Perhaps Ibrox. But my name is Alec Anderson. They're justified and they're ancient, and they like to roam the land. They're justified and they're ancient. I hope you understand. They called me up in Tennessee. They said, "Tammy, stand by the jams. But if you don't like what they're going to do, you better not stop them, 'cause they're coming through." It's justified and ancient. It's like Queen's Park, 1867, or Cells, 1872. And they're more justified than Hearts, 1874. That's the three games that we've been, the three teams involved in our life over the last 7 days. Some of them more justified than others, all equally ancient, or just a bit more ancient than others. And stand by the jams. Stand by the jam. No, we want to be stamping all over the jambos, obviously. Yeah, I'm here to discuss the game coming up on Sunday, for which we have no team news. We got no updates about injuries and stuff like that today. It's as if there was other things on the minds of the journalists and the Rangers people sent out to face those journalists at the presser today. I suppose we better. We better start sorting out that domestic away record. On Sunday we've got to start sorting out that domestic away record, which is the only thing that Philip Clement has been getting wrong this season. It's the only thing. Remember that. Remember those heady days when we were unbeaten at home and reached every domestic cup final under Clement and never lost away in Europe under Clement, and the only thing we couldn't do was win away from home in the league. Do you remember those days? And then we pumped Dundee United at Tannadice, and it all went south. It all went to pot. I think we lost at Old Trafford in the game just before that, and then we out the Scottish Cup last 16 to Queen's Park of the Championship at Ibrox on Sunday just past. Okay, maybe Old Trafford isn't away enough. Maybe it's only outside Great Britain that Clement has got an unbeaten away record in Europe. And okay, technically Queen's Park are 11 SPFL League places closer to us than Dynamo Kiev are Europa League places close to us, and it's like 17th in the SPFL. No, the SPFL setup. We're second, and if you add on the championship directly, it's like the Queen's Park will be 17th. So there's. Whereas Dynamo Kiev, they finished third bottom, 34th in the Europa League group stage, and the link is that they're the only two teams that we've failed to score against at home this season, even if that home. One of the homes is Hampden, which is where Queen's Park have been playing again this season as their home. It gets confusing. And maybe it just proves that you need to sometimes break the good pattern if you want to break the bad one. No, we'll lose our first away game in Europe under Clement, the 9th attempt was it? But we went to Old Trafford, and then the following Sunday we go and we turn it on away from home against Dundee United. I know it wasn't a perfect performance, but we certainly got quite spectacular in the way we won that one. So maybe let's go and build on. I'm just trying to see maybe if we losing to Queen's Park, a championship side, the first properly bad kind of losing to a lower league side, humiliation for Clement's Rangers, maybe that's a kind of nadir we have to hit before we can just generally be great on all fronts, all the domestic fronts. And it's desperate. It's desperate. I'm trying to find reasons. We're all trying to find reasons to be focused in the game at Tynecastle there. Let's go and build that result at Tannadice by stepping up, from the 0-0 that we had with Hearts at Tynecastle the first time we met the Jambos this season. Let's go for a 3 or a 4 goal win over the Hearts. Like, we've done that in Georgie so many times over recent years. We've got a fairly good record against Hearts in general. We've got a really good record against Hearts, and that's something we really need to to cash in on that at this point in time. Tynecastle is that kind of venue for us. It's where we get the opposite and equal reaction. I'm a scientist, and I'm always quoting Isaac Newton. It's like Brian Cox, no, the one that played Hannibal Lecter in the Manhunter film, but it's like you get the equal and opposite reaction to the kind of headline grabbing action. And what I'm trying to talk about is like 1985, 1986, for example. November 85, 86. I had Rangers drew 0-0 with Clydebank home. No, one each. Was it one each? And I think Craig Patterson might have scored at both ends. We drew at home with was that a different game where we beat them 3-2? Anyway, we had a home draw with Clydebank, I remember. And the 3 previous home games in the league we'd lost, and let's to Aberdeen, Dundee, Hibs, and stuff like that. Wasn't none of them to Celtic. This idea that this is the worst Rangers team I've ever seen in my life. Even if you take out I'm not even going to throw in the lower league seasons that we had post 2012. If you watched Rangers 70s, 80s, 90s, and the idea that this current Rangers team is the worst we've ever had in the top flight is a total non-starter. That's the first home game we've lost all season domestically last week. I was watching us go three straight home league defeats, and then this is before November. It's under Jock Wallace's second coming. We draw with Clydebank. Following week, we've got Celtic at Ibrox, and we pumped them 3-0, going on 10-0. Absolutely sensational. I'm like 16 years old in the East Enclosure with my pals and all that. Just Dingy and running that. And the following week, we're all through at Tynecastle. We're playing Hearts at Tynecastle the following week. We've turned the corner. We get beat 3-0. So it's like the kind of equal and opposite reaction. Fantastic victory over Celtic. We're tremendous. Following week through to Tynecastle. And a good Hearts team that season. They nearly won the league. We get beat. And everybody's talking about the fact that when we lost to Hamilton Accies in 1987, we went to Tynecastle the following game, and we beat them 5-2. The first time they'd lost at home in 18 months. This was just the following season. So with the ultimate low of losing to Hamilton Accies, albeit they were a top flight side at the end of January in the Scottish Cup, a really embarrassing defeat for Souness's Rangers in his first full season as Rangers manager. Next week, the next Saturday, we went to Tynecastle and we beat them 5-2, a great Hearts side, absolutely stuffed them. So, yeah. I didn't go, did I? I was at the Hamilton Accies game. I know it's a theme with me in these pods. All the bad results, I'm there. I am the jinx. Here it is, the fully intact. I was at the game earlier that season at Tynecastle where we drew 1 each. Hearts maintaining their unbeaten run. David Cooper, I love, it was in the sunshine, kind of August, and a lovely dribbling run by Super Cooper into the old away end, the old death trap away end at Georgie with that big massive kind of vomitory, the tenements overlooking it, knee roof and everything right round the side. It's spectacular, but it was pretty dangerous. But it was heady days, and I couldn't get a ticket. I was stuck outside. I didn't have a ticket, and I'd be like 17, and I just couldn't get it. And eventually, about 5 minutes after kickoff, this fella comes up to me, and he had the portion to be handed over, portion to be surrendered of the ticket only. And how much was this one? The one like £2.50 ticket, £2.50 the tickets were then for the terrace. And the ground tickets enter by Georgie Road turnstiles 9 to 16. Given up at this portion to be given up at turnstile. Well, that was the only bit the fella had. Didn't have the other portion. And I was like, what, mate? This seems dodgy. No, you'll be all right. So I gave him the massive £2.50, and I got in absolutely fine. And I got in just in time to see Super Cooper, to see Coop going in his wee run. And it went. And the next time we played them was that game on the 7th of February 1987. And this is both portions of the ticket because I get pissed on the Saturday night and didn't make the train. My mates were waiting for me. Didn't have mobile phones in their days, nor that. They had to go. And I missed. I was there for us getting beat 1-0 off Hamilton in the Scottish Cup, and I did not get through there for the 5-2 win over Hearts at Tynecastle. Great timing, Alec. So what's the point, though? What's the point? There's nothing to play for. That's what I've been hearing this week. What's the point, Tynecastle Sunday? There's nothing to play for. What's the point even try? I don't know. Something's got to happen. It's when it, Celtic get beat at home by Bayern Munich by a single goal this week. So Celtic got a big first loss at home for them this season in any competition, I think. So they get beat by a single goal at home, and yet there's no the level of criticism that we got last Sunday. I mean, how many Scottish Cups have Bayern Munich won? No, Queen's Park, third most successful team in the history of the Scottish Cup. How many Scottish Cups have Bayern Munich won? No, it's a humiliation for Celtic there as well, but yeah, we're not hearing about that. Typical biased media. We need more fan media. What's the point? What's it all about? I can't help thinking about this film that I saw when I was a kid. The Beatles. I don't. When somebody says I don't like, I'm not saying I don't like the Beatles. I haven't given the Beatles a proper chance. How can you fail to give the Beatles a proper chance? I don't know if their music, like the White Album and Rubber Soul, the really famous ones. I don't think they're as readily available to just listen to. I've kind of struggled listening to them, but there's a Rolling Stones house that I grew up in. I mean, I like Beatles stuff, not the kind of more famous stuff. I loved them when I was a kid. Like actually, primary school almost. I loved the Beatles, the kind of famous stuff, the kind of pop era, the portion of their career. But I never. Anyway, it was this film, and I remember I was a kid when I was probably barely in secondary school when my sister and I, just one of the days, I don't know if it was during the holidays or something, or on a Saturday where we know where to go. We're just sitting watching this film on the telly, and it was a wee TV biopic of the Beatles. And because I knew so little about them, I remember later on finding out that it was true. This was all true. Like Pete Best was a real guy, and he really did. Folk did think he was the best drummer for the Beatles, and they really were angry. I knew Ringo Starr was the real drummer for the Beatles even when I was a kid, but it was really weird. I remember later on in life just what, oh, that was in that film. I think it might have been terribly acted. I've never hidden or heard of it since. It was years in Hamburg as well. And the guy got ill that used to be in the band and he died or whatever. It was all stuff like that. It turned out it was true, but it was such a, it was, they were giving it the fictional stuff. It was all being acted. It wasn't like a documentary that we just saw it as this kind of fairy tale almost, my sister and I. We really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. That was the most I've ever known about the Beatles, the longest I've ever given them in anything. But I just remember the bit that stuck with me was Ringo Starr's first gig. And it was a whole Pete Best fan club. They couldn't. Why have you sacked Pete Best? Why have you sacked Beatlemania? Or the last season, I'm absolutely hating this fella that came in to replace Pete Best as drummer for the Beatles, and Ringo just does the old in this film. I don't know if this is what happened in real life, but I think they're all kind of booing and all that. A bit like when Dylan went electric or something like that. They're all booing when they take the stage with this new drummer. So Ringo just gets in his seat and he just starts hitting a single beat. And it's kind of getting as loud as the boos, and they're starting to hear it, and the folk can't help being a bit, oh, what's happening here, what's happening? And he batters, and he just, I don't know the technical terms for the drumming, even though there's that 5-part series on Sky Arts about it, but he starts really going for it both hands, and goes a bit of a drum solo, and then they go into, oh, shake it up, baby, now shake it up, brilliant, we forgive you, Beatles. This guy seems absolutely fine. Who's Pete Best? And I didn't realise that was this film come back to me when I went to see Steven Gerrard playing for Liverpool, but I was primarily going to see Benfica playing Liverpool at Anfield in the Europa League. Benfica, I've got a whole thing about European finalists I haven't seen. I'd never seen Benfica. That was a bad one that I hadn't seen Benfica. So it got to the point of 2010. I've had enough of this. And Benfica were playing Liverpool at Anfield in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Easy to get tickets for that because if it's no Champions League, they're not interested at Anfield. So down I went. And my wife came down. It was the weekend of Grand National as well, so made a weekend of it. And the day after the game, Liverpool won 4-1. We went to Port Sunlight. Port Sunlight, the kind of model village. It was a kind of social experiment. The soap place, Sunlight Soap, was a big thing, and they built this. It's kind of creepy, also really, really nice, and I would imagine it's absolutely fantastic in terms of the health of workers in those days. But this kind of model village, and you go through the Mersey Tunnel, which was designed by a guy who invented goal nets, who I think trialled them at Anfield at the time where Everton were still at home at Anfield. The reason Liverpool got formed because Everton fell out with the landlord for Anfield, so they moved to Goodison, and that was the last Merseyside derby at Goodison the other night. So that's a wee bit of connection there. But I'd been to Goodison as well. Absolutely iconic ground. But I went to this Anfield and it was like went through we went like the cavern, and then you go through the tunnel, and then you come up into the port of sunlight, you know. And as we're walking around this village, it used to be town hall, it'd be village hall, it's a village hall, and there's a wee plaque in the wall, and it said where Ringo Starr played his first gig for the Beatles, where he first appeared for the Beatles. So that's where Ringo Starr did that thing that I'd seen in the film as a kid, where he just shut up the crowd. But it was in there, it was in the village hall, Port Sunlight, and just outside Liverpool, just through the Mersey Tunnel. So that was quite good. The whole point of that is, I think that's the thing. You turning up. We are the Beatlemania. We don't, just we're not all turning up at Tynecastle, obviously. The away end, the away tickets will still be sold out, I would imagine. They should be. In our time of need, that's when we should be gathering around our club most intensely. And it was that tip, tip, tip. We're like, we hate you, Rangers. We're sick of you. You pissed us off last Sunday. That was out of order. Oh, we're playing again. There's the blue jerseys. Oh, we've got a bit of move going. Oh, I can't help cheering on the team. And you're getting abused by Hearts supporters, so it'll make you naturally want to cheer on Rangers even more. I think it'll be a bit like Ringo Starr making his debut for the Beatles. That's maybe overselling it, but don't ever write it off. Clearly, it's true that there's nothing to play for, but you mean there's nothing to win domestically. Celtic are in the middle of a huge European tie, so they're probably going to rest a few players tomorrow when they play Dundee United at home. Dundee United, third best team in the country. Maybe we don't want Dundee United to win. They're going to catch us in second place. I don't think so. How embarrassing would it be if Celtic drop points tomorrow, and then by the end of the weekend they're still 12 or 13 points ahead of us? If we slip up, at the end of the day, oh Jesus, I know it's embarrassment avoidance really on Sunday, and that isn't quite the same thing as it's not quite the same motivational tool as going for glory. Just trying to avoid more embarrassment, just trying to kind of tighten things up generally in Rangers sport. But winning stuff is what we should be all about. But at Rangers, it should be just as motivational to try and avoid more embarrassment, to try and put an end stop on any kind of bad publicity for the club. It's the meaning of playing for the jersey. It's no silverware. It's professional pride is about playing for the jersey. I always had much more respect for players who, when things got tough, they would just ensure they didn't get any tougher. Lots of players really great at coasting. But I think I can't help suspecting that's why Dick Advocaat's Rangers lost by like 4 goals at Parkhead twice. No, they beat 5-1 by Joe Venglos' Celtic. We get beat 6-2 by Martin O'Neill's Celtic when Advocaat was the manager. Why we lost by 3 goals. I remember losing 3-0 at the end of the season, one of O'Neill's seasons. We'd kind of cantered to the league. And Rangers didn't lose by 3 goals at home to Celtic, especially. We didn't lose by 3 goals at home to Celtic, basically. We'd lost by 3 goals at home a few times. This is the Rangers team of the early to mid-80s that I grew up with, who just weren't anywhere near winning league titles at all. We're playing in front of crowds of down below the 10,000 mark quite regularly, but they wouldn't lose by 3 goals. I think we took a couple of 3-goal doings at Parkhead in those days, but not at Ibrox. And you get the feeling it's like, especially foreign players, that whole foreign manager thing. We don't have to live. You don't have to live here. You don't have to live with this for the rest of your life. The motivation is slightly lacking because they will be going back home. Scotland isn't their home. And especially you got a bunch of foreign players who are thinking much the same way and have already won a double, won a treble as they did under Advocaat. Maybe don't have the same need once a game. Once they're losing a game, it's a write-off. Let's get ourselves ready for the next game. Whereas the locals that have been raised in the tradition, they know that they've got to live here for the rest of their life. They don't want to be on the end of a doing. So I think there's a major humiliation to be compensated for on Sunday. The huge setback has been had. The real material response will be in the Europa League, the one competition we can still win. But right now the players need to be so consumed with self-loathing that only destroying Hearts can alleviate the pain. And last Friday the chat was all about how the Scottish Cup provided a really quick route to a trophy. So thoughts of glory clearly don't inspire this side given what happened on Sunday. But how about us, the fans? How do we feel about our first post a chance of winning something domestic fixture of 2024-2025? The domestic season is over. How are we feeling? It's a bit like Martin Creed, the Turner Prize winning artist who's, I think, raised in Glasgow, but he's actually born in Wakefield. Wakefield, I went to Wakefield, and the Barbara Hepworth Gallery is there and all that. I think that's quite interesting. But he, of course, won the Turner Prize. That was part of his work was work number 227, the lights turning on and off. Now you just go into a room, basically just put a circuit breaker into not a circuit, but he'd put a timer into the circuit in a room with some lights, and the lights would come on, then they'd go off. They'd come on, then they'd go off, and you just stand there thinking, "This isn't very." I never saw it. I never went. Never come. But I stood in the kitchen, got my wife to switch the lights on and off, and I thought, "Oh." And that's pretty much what it's going to be like supporting Rangers domestically for the rest of this season. It's like, well, it's us, but it's pointless. It is Rangers, but there's nothing to play for. Okay, we've won, but we're not going to win. It's that kind of. It's just a bit like an ongoing artwork that just makes you contemplate. It's existentialism. So seeing and hearing a lot of stuff about not going back. Well, Clement is still there. Not going to renew my season ticket. That's a real fear, because this is the kind of stuff that makes people not renew their season tickets. Don't want to go back to Ibrox. Don't want to go and watch Rangers. I don't know about that. I get that trophies is a major part of Rangers' domestic identity. Winning domestic trophies is part of our duty, really, when we've got such a massive support and a budget compared to everybody else in Scotland, but bar one. And I know that we've more than proved our loyalty, the kind of staunch factor as a support with our time in the lower leagues, 4 seasons in the lower leagues, and now with 9 seasons back in the top flight, of which we were only allowed into grounds for the 8 in which we didn't win the title. But I don't think even challenging for honours is the first prerequisite of our loyalty from our Rangers team. They don't need to be. It's a close run thing with Rangers, but we should just love Rangers for Rangers' sake. There's a weird kind of worrying culture developing. I think it's powered as usual by online zealots, kind of public declarations of disloyalty and the betrayal of our club being the way to be a supporter of our club. I've touched on this before this season. It's maybe just me being an old man. It's like one of those things that, so much that you start shouting at the world in general, barking at the moon as an old man. It's like the Andrew Tate thing. What an absolute this guy's filth. He's absolute vermin, and yet he's it's part of the reason he's allowed on. The fact that he's allowed on X, Twitter, is the reason I keep myself off it as much as I possibly can now. Because he's just encouraging rape and people trafficking, and it's horrific. The stuff that the kind of mindset that he's perpetrating and feeding off, and the stuff he's doing to young men, as much as it's much worse what he's doing to young women, obviously, but he's also just imprisoning young men in this unrealistic, horrific, just crime committing world. And yet he's seen as he's kind of he's stuck. He's not just like driven out of town. When I was a young man, that was a nonce. That was like in prison when it was full of criminals, full of bad people. He would still be the worst of the worst. He would have to be protected by the prison guards from the other prisoners. That's the worst behaviour. But yet there's people kind of arguing on his behalf now and stuff like that. I don't get it. It's beyond the pale. And for me, when I was growing up, I mean, it's a bit of an unfair comparison. I'm not trying to say it's the same thing, but it's just a general statement on how maybe it's just me unable to catch up with the world. I maybe just got too old. But not only supporting your team when they win something was called glory hunting, and that was the worst thing possible. Now, that's what it is. That's what it is for most fans. Crowds go up and down, depending on how a team's doing. On the field, that's just something that happens. But we like to sell ourselves as being loyal supporters, and we have been just now. But that's a TAV milestone. There's a TAV milestone. I couldn't believe it. I was at the BBC Sports website or something. I could hear I could see the follow message boards just as soon as I realised this thing that TAV is going to become the focal point of the first game that we've played after one of the worst defeats in our history. The first non-Scot to make 300 Premiership appearances since the rebrand of the Scottish League system. Excuse me sniffing, sorry. It's this cold, it just won't go away. It's nothing to do with the Coke. And that rebrand only came about because we were end up in the bottom tier, and the whole of Scottish football had to rebrand itself to try and compensate for that. Arguably our most embarrassing loss ever, followed by a personal milestone for Tav. The timing we've been great since the turn of the year as well. We've been great since the turn of the year, and last week it's just the worst ever. And it's this week that Tav's going to make. He's the first non-Scot, as I say, to make 300 appearances in the top. It's one of those kind of bogus, the equivalent of you get all these Premier League records or Champions League era only records, like football started in 1992 kind of stuff. This is football started in 2013 kind of record, but it should be a nice month for Tav, but hopefully he just kind of eschews any self-congratulation if somebody comes up and says to him, what a great moment for you, James Tavernier, to make 300 Premiership appearances. We can't have the captain kind of boasting, or not boasting, but taking any kind of adulation, even from a neutral, a commentator, an interviewer or something like that. It just needs to be just talking how about still trying to recover from last week. It's all about getting over last week. It's not about the personal stuff. There's already people online doing that, talking about online zealotry. They're doing the anybody who goes to Tav's testimonial is part of the problem. The people who go to Rangers matches aren't part of the problem. They are literally the only reason we have Rangers and ever had Rangers. But that is the way things are going just now. It's such a bad state of affairs at this moment in time with that defeat last week. There's a lot of really bad emotion and poor judgment in people's actions. I didn't realise until I heard the press today that Philip Clement had been abused as he came out of Ibrox last Sunday, stopping to sign autographs for kids. And I've not seen the videos. I'm not in any rush to go and find them. This is just what happens. It's the way of the world, and Rangers have got to do what they can quickly to try and resolve. The level of hateful zealotry is what Rangers are meant to be the antidote to. You know what I mean? It's that lot. They're the zealots. They're the cultists. No, we're supposed to be. We turn up my large numbers. Doesn't matter if the team win or lose, as long as they know that there's a rival army across the city. It's exactly the same in both sides, isn't it? But that's ridiculous, of course. But all football supporters are full of nutters, and their numbers will rise and fall in direct relation to on-field success. But just turning up and supporting your team, it's a beautiful thing in itself. It is a beautiful thing in itself. It's a lovely way to spend your life. It's actually a leisure activity, football. But it's not a straightforward transactional relationship. That's not what I'm into it for. Sometimes I get way less than I expected out of our team, but sometimes I get way more than I expected. But the constant is Ibrox, and that there is a team. We should realise that more than anybody now. The constant is that we do have a team wearing that gorgeous kit. Is it a more beautiful kit when we're winning? It absolutely is. I've said before, it's that kind of Stroop effect thing where I can never hate a Rangers strip. That's how easy it is to slip into that mindset of hating yourself, hating your own. But the collar and cuffs, I think I hate it because people use it as a kind of, they wear it as a retro kit now, a classic retro kit. The 1978 to 82 kit where we had the kind of V-neck and with the collar, and it's red, white and blue collar, red, white and blue cuffs. We didn't win the league at any point in that, but that's when I started supporting Rangers really intensely as a kid, kind of prepubescent kid, and it's so much pain involved in it. So many great moments, and players that I'll always love wore that kit as well. But oh god, yeah, it's terrible memories, and it's similar like the Brazil kit. You want to go really extreme. The Brazil kit is a nonsense. Blue shorts, a canary yellow top, white socks, green. What's that all about? The Ajax strip, white with a big red block down the middle, but the stuff these teams have won, the stuff that's been done, the football that's been played in those kits, iconic. You can't help loving the kits. Our kit does look all the more beautiful when we're winning, but I love it anyway. It's full of the memories of everything that we have done that is good, and full of the promise of everything great that we'll do in the future. The minute our proclaimed love is dependent on guaranteed kind of success, we're either cultists or corporate monsters. The soul's gone at that point. It's over. We'll all feel like mugs when we take the pitch and we instantly care again. They'll probably win because the pressure's off. They're probably going to win because the pressure's off. But it's also proof of what it gives you. Just kind of following. It gives you hope. Hope doesn't kill you. It can embarrass you at times, but it hopes but sustains you. Other than just how devastating the result itself was against Queen's Park, what it means about our history, the main thing I've been milling over is that Amy Irons interview post-match in Premier Sport where she asked Clement if he can survive such a humiliating elimination. He went a bit Warburton, which is a bit Mark Warburton at Tynecastle of all places, when his last game in charge, which is always dangerous. Not telling us as a supporter what we should expect, and that we're lucky, to probably we're just lucky to have anybody who's keeping us in the top flight. We've been through these hard times recently. 2012. It's okay for me to talk about that. He shouldn't do that. You're not allowed to mention that if you're the Rangers manager. But moreover, I think it told us he wasn't about the emotions. He was about the project and the rebuild. What was it? He was talking, if you ignore the fact that they had 30 shots on goal, I think it was only 28, and only 9 of them were on target. And amongst those 9, I think maybe 3 of them looked at any chance of being a goal. It really is lies, damn lies, and statistics, that kind of stuff. But he's saying if you want to ignore the fact that our tactics opened up Queen's Park to the point that we got all these chances, and it was just we weren't sharp enough on the day in our finishing, then you're living in emotions, and there will never be stability in this club. Only living in emotions, in he wants it to be kind of cold, hard, almost ruthless focus on the development of the team, on the long term kind of. It's like he's sorting out the open play. But set pieces are terrible. Taking set pieces or defending set pieces. Our shooting's absolutely woeful. And we're reduced to having to shoot from outside the box so often as well because of a total lack of penetration into the opposition box. This was a mid-table championship side we're playing last week. But it's like he's just thinking, yeah, I'm going to never mind all that stuff just now. But at the stage where I just wanted to get the 4-2. Last season it was 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3. Why does he keep playing 4-2-3-1? That's kind of moved on this season, and we're just like, right, set pieces, etc. It's like our criticisms are more specific. He's kind of fine tuning it, calibrating it. The whole point is, if this is a rebuild season, if this is a write-off season, as has been intimated by Clement so heavily, and by John Bennett back in the summer as well, and by everything that we see, we wanted rid of so many players as well. It's a massive clear out. Then maybe we have to put the emotions out the way. Maybe we have to forget about wanting to beat Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. It's a moment of real difference between us and the man. It's a real culture clash. I think I'm still unsure about his reaction post match in the press room at Ibrox, where he's definitely seemed to feel it felt as if he wasn't getting it. He just wasn't getting exactly what this meant. I talked about that in the 2 hour long pod I had the other day, which was supposed to stop this being a massive pod. There's been so much happening. That's never going to happen. But this is Valentine's Day. I get that blind loyalty is also a kind of a form of zealotry. I'm not being blindly loyal here. I'm just trying to weigh up. The only thing that's worth weighing up is why we should keep. That's the only question just now. Why should we keep him? Why should we keep Clement as manager? But I get that blind loyalty is also kind of irritating. It can be another form of like grandstanding and almost kind of fundamentalist, self-defeating nonsense. But I remember at Rangers AGM that I got smuggled into years ago. I think this was during the Advocate years, and it's probably the season Martin O'Neill first arrived, because it was a kind of general bad mood. The season that Martin O'Neill first arrived in Glasgow football. But it was definitely during the Advocate years, and I don't have shares in Rangers, but somebody smuggled and got me a ticket, smuggled me in, and it was the Armadillo, the auditorium. It's absolutely massive, and I know it's a bigger one across the road now, but it's pretty massive, and it's full, obviously, of Rangers supporters who are heavily into Rangers. They've got shares and what have you, and they're doing that thing where they're passing the camera around they're passing the microphone around for questions from the floor. And I'm up in the kind of top, I'm up in the balcony bit, and there's this fella just a few rows in front of me who got the microphone. And he stands up. And I can't even remember what the complaint was. I don't think it was about on-field stuff, actually. But it was a complaint we all kind of knew about. It was an ongoing thing. And of course, the board are all sitting on the stage, and they're listening to this guy. And he ended it, just for a bit of emphasis, he just said, because you're kind of under pressure. Let's say, all Rangers fans here, and you're trying to, if you're doubting that people are taking you seriously, you maybe want to get a bit over emotional about it to make your point. And he said, it's made me ashamed to be a Rangers supporter. And of course, immediately there was and I thought, oh no, mate, I know he didn't mean to say it. I know he didn't mean to word it like that. And it was nice, to hear a whole auditorium of Rangers fans not being ashamed to be Rangers supporters, because even back then, we had a lot of this, kind of self-hatred thing going on. But every time somebody got the microphone after that to raise another point, they would end it by going, and by the way, I will never be ashamed to be a Rangers fan, and folk are applauding and all that, and it was like they're looking at that guy, and I thought, no, that's no that's when it can go too far. No, that's when being kind of grandstanding your loyalty that's assumed can go too far as well. It works both ways. You can be too angry at the club, and you can also be too pro the club in a way that's also kind of damaging to people. It wasn't nice. It was a horrible thing, and it was basically a bit of a pile on the poor fella who I don't know how he feels about Rangers these days, but that's the kind of thing that would make you really uncomfortable. But today is Valentine's Day, and I think we should. For me, it's Sonnet 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. That's your first quatrain there, first stanza from Shakespeare's sonnet number 116. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds. I think that's what we should be. I certainly wouldn't have been wanting to spend my life with any other team. I certainly wouldn't want to alter my love just because we've altered our home record in the Scottish Cup. The starting 11 for Sunday, the 150-year record of not losing to a team from a lower league than the one we're in the Scottish Cup. Am I being too? I mean, is there any lows left? Is there any low? Are we being too uptight about this? We've been too precious about this. I mean, we didn't win the Scottish Cup, and it was horrible last season when we got to the final against Celtic, the one team in the country who are undeniably better than us last season, and we chuck it literally into their hands in the last minute of the game. That was pretty flipping low. That's a really low, awful way to lose it. But I don't know. It's the first time we've lost to a lower league side at home as a top flight club, and it's things like the wee caveats like that remind you we were in the lower leagues in 2012, 2013, 14, 15. So we got almost relegated. We almost experienced relegation when Motherwell beat us in the promotion relegation playoff, and what was that, 2014, 15. And that was awful. That was an awful experience. That was a new one. Losing the Scottish Cup final to Hibs wasn't very nice, but getting beat at home by Peterhead and Annan, playing in the lower leagues at all, even winning the Challenge Cup was weird. That was kind of embarrassing, just winning the Challenge Cup, never mind the stuff that was happening to us in the previous 3 seasons of not winning it, the ways we didn't win it. Queen of the South with 10 men, equalising the last minute and beating his penalties at Ibrox. And the 2-0 up against Alloa at Recreation Park in the semi-final, then they beat us with 20 minutes to go and they beat us 3-2. That game against Wraith Rovers, there's been a lot of, the final Easter, there's a lot of really, really bad stuff, and even we come back into the top flight and getting out to Progress Niederkorn in the very first round of European qualifying for a club that's won a European trophy. That was Celtic beating us 5-1 at Ibrox. I never thought I'd ever see that. And then Liverpool beating us 7-1, the first time I've seen anybody beating us by more than 4 goals at Ibrox, and they really beat us by more than 4 goals. That was absolutely abysmal. So I'm trying to think of the only things that we've got left to do, really, in terms of one-off kind of humiliations that I never thought I'd see when even I was watching even the Rangers team of the early to mid-80s. I think it's maybe finishing lower than 6th in any league table. We'd never finish lower than 6th in the top flight, obviously. But even when we're in the lower leagues, we're always finishing top or second or third top. I think was it that season. I think we were second or third the season we didn't come up behind Hearts and Hibs. No, we beat Hibs in the playoffs. I think we were second. But we've never finished lower than 6th. We finished 6th once, I think. We've only once finished lower than 5th in any league that we're playing in Scotland, any division that we've played in. So finished 7th. Tried really hard to finish 7th this season. That would be quite an achievement. And I think the only other thing to do is to play in our away kit in an Old Firm game. That's never done this. A bit of respect in it. I'm waiting for Celtic to do that. I'm waiting for Celtic to. That's the ultimate for them. Just wear their away kit against Rangers in an Old Firm game. A real proper insult there. That's the final disrespect. So one-off lows are one thing. Long-term stasis is really long-term failure is the worst. And maybe if we need to just. Sometimes you need a low to kind of get you going again. I don't know if we're the fact that Wraith Rovers beat us at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup when Wraith Rovers, of course, we were both in the Championships. We have been beaten at home in the Scottish Cup by a lower league side. We have been put in the Scottish Cup by a lower league side before, but we'd be trying not to see it that way. But I don't know. It's love is not love, which alters when alterations finds. We might want Willoughby and his kind of white stallion, all kind of Sturm and Drang as he dismounts and dashingly asks for permission to ascertain whether there are any breaks to the twisted ankle of liquidation that has us falling on our arse on the hillside so spectacularly every 6 months in 2012. We're always doing something. There's always something that's a huge setback, a huge beamer. But we probably need Edward Ferris. This is Sense and Sensibility. This is Jane Austen references here. We probably need Edward Ferris, who kind of genuinely loves us and wants real change for us. He wants genuine, long-term, calm improvement for us. Doesn't he want kind of change for change's sake, or to simply acquire the reflected glory of us getting up for Old Firm games, winning a trophy, then pissing off to England for the real money? We need to be like. Sunday was humiliating, but it's maybe a kind of vapour trail of 2012, a time in the lower leagues. 2012 was seismic. So Scottish football had suddenly got itself a pyramid system, despite everybody in Scotland asking for it for years. Suddenly there was this bit in it, but we lost the Scottish League. We lost the Scottish Football League after 123 years or something. I just disappeared. And the SPL, it disappeared. The SFL and the SPL suddenly became the SPFL. It was absolutely seismic. And maybe this is a kind of after tremors. You decide if it's another earthquake or not. And I feel as if, I tend to feel as if last Sunday was just another after tremor. We're at a stage where we need infrastructure and long-term planning. Trophies, one last season. We got one last season. We got a trophy last season. Europe is kind of... It's worth so many Scottish trophies. I know I'm trying to think of a different way to say this. It's European progress. For us to be in the last 16 of European competition again, the state of Scottish football compared to European football in general these days, it's a phenomenal achievement, absolutely phenomenal. And I think what we've done in Europe since we come back into the top flight has been a near miracle, and it's something we aren't proud enough of. Leipzig, RB Leipzig, the semi-final at Ibrox in 2022 is the happiest moment, the best night of my life, the best game of my life as a Rangers supporter. I know there's so many other Rangers supporters feel the same way. There was no trophy after that game, never mind the fact we didn't win the final. It's not always all about trophies. And I think the European achievement is definitely undersold by ourselves as a support. Is a cold hard stats man, perhaps the manager? No, I think he said repeatedly he mentioned this again in his press today, he loves winning stuff. He loves working with people, and winning stuff makes them happy. He loves developing players and people around him, his staff and all that, all working together towards one goal. And if there's any big wins, well, that's great fun for him. It's a matter of great pride. He's definitely here to lay the groundwork. I think he's really enjoying the project aspect of it. Maybe he's too focused on that, so he definitely sees losing at home to Queen's Park as being, that's bad, but why he's all getting so upset about it. So that's something that's got to be sorted out. He certainly knows about it now. And I think the way he spoke in a press conference a few months ago, he was asked about the B team. And he was like, "You shouldn't want to ask me this because I could go on about this for ages." And he went right in quickly, 5 minutes, gave us a really enthusiastic 5 minutes about why we need our B team. It's obviously we've lost the B team now, we're just getting rid of it. That's all been restructured, but we need to have the situation they've got in the continent where the B teams of clubs of the size of Rangers compared to the rest of the actual league setup should have their reserve team in basically the penultimate flight of football. They should be in the Championship. Never mind a lowland league, never mind a conference league. They should be in the Championship. I think he would have them in the top flight, basically, if he possibly could. That is a way to develop them properly, the young players, reserve teams, and just the way he talked about that, the enthusiasm he had for it. I think he is a projects man, and Rangers are a project. If we go below the kind of median performance, we've overperformed for what he's expecting this season in European terms, and we've underperformed with getting out the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park. But the season was a write-off. The season was part of a rebuild. So this is what a write-off looks like, unfortunately. he's got that going for him. All that's left is to finish lower than 6th in the league and use their away kit against Celtic. No, excuse me, keep sniffing here. There's a romance and allure. Despite winning hee-haw, it looks like I'm talking about Hearts, the Jambos, their beautiful maroon kit. They've got even fewer Scottish Cups to their name than Queen's Park, but still managed to have a great kit. And the one time in the last 60 years that Hearts haven't reached the final in a year ending in 6 was when Hibs won it in 2016. Hearts won the Scottish Cup in 1896, 1906 and 1956. They lost the final to us in 1970. So 66 we had Kai Johansson scoring the replay against Celtic. That was the last trophy we won for a few years now, because we went to Berwick the following season. But from that, we went to the European final, the Cup Winners' Cup final, the following season as well. But then in 76, Hearts lost to us as we sold up the treble in the Scottish Cup final. 86, they lost to Aberdeen. 96, they lost 5-1 to us. The first Scottish Cup final I saw Rangers winning. The first Scottish Cup final I was there when Rangers won in my 4th attempt. I am the jinx. 2006, they beat Gretna in penalties. 2016, Hearts don't back up their record of getting to the Scottish Cup final in a year ending in 6, and what happens? Their worst nightmare. Hibs win it. Turns out it's my worst nightmare as well. So you've got to keep up the pattern. The first time I saw Hearts at Ibrox was in the 80s, and I was absolutely astonished by the size of their support, the size of Davy Bowman's thighs. They were wearing that silver kit that they would wear the following season. It must have been like 84, 85, and that silver away kit that they lost the double in successive weeks at Dens Park. They lost the league, and then losing that Scottish Cup final to Aberdeen the following week in 86. And they lost the size of support. I think it broke them that season. Is that what we're doing? Getting ready to break because we're so near. Hearts nearly they've been in the lower leagues really recently, back in the mid 80s, and that was them. They were on the cusp of winning the double, and they lost the league by a couple of goals on the last day of the season at Dens Park, and then they lost the Scottish Cup final the following week. And their support, although they come back, they'll be challenged with us kind of 91, 92. I think they were our main challengers, and the support was pretty decent still. It wasn't that one that took up the whole of the Broomlin, bits of the West Enclosure, bits of the main stand, and bits of the Govan. That time I saw them beating us 2-0 between Christmas and New Year, 85, 86. I'm like, what the hell is in the RTS? What is this song? I was just a kid at the time. Hearts had been in the lower leagues when I was kind of growing up, and here they were back big time, quite a phenomenon. But I don't know if that's what happened. Obviously, it's 40 years. That was the last time that anybody other than Rangers or Celtic was the reigning league champions back in 85, 86. Aberdeen were the reigning champions. It's been 40 years of no one else other than the Old Firm winning the league would probably break anybody. It's broke the size of most supports in Scotland outside the Old Firm. But is that what we're doing? Are we getting ready to break because we came too close? We're in Division 4, effectively, the 4th tier of Scottish football, and it's on declarations of loyalty, eternal loyalty. I don't see why finishing second too consistently, finishing second a few seasons in a row, is going to suddenly have everybody not renewing their season tickets. Hearts, we don't know anything about Rangers' team, as I say, but no information today in the presser about Rangers' injuries. The manager had other things they had to discuss. But I don't think we really care about the Rangers team that's fielded on Sunday, because it just has to win, and it has to win handsomely. Hearts, they've changed manager this season. Stevie Naismith until the 22nd of September. Then they get Liam Fox in as temporary manager. Neil Critchley come in 15th of October after they'd used Tony Bloom of Brighton to knock up the stats and who their best manager should be. A worrying moment that for me. If Tony Bloom get involved with the Jambos, then we really are going to have somebody else other than Celtic to worry about. I mean, we'll have them to worry about on Sunday anyway. I suspect their upturn in form is as much to do. I think Hearts have only had one defeat in 10. I think their upturn in form is as much to do with them being out of Europe. Excuse me, sorry. Out of Europe, that was really kind of holding them back. I think they play the Europa League playoff. They lost 1-0 home and away, 2-0 in aggregate to Victoria Pilsen in the Czech Republic. And then they dropped straight into the Conference League group stage. Only 6 games for the Conference League group stage. So that was over by December. Hearts started off with a couple of wins. They won in Azerbaijan. They're playing Dinamo Minsk of Belarus in Azerbaijan because of everything that's happening with Russia and Ukraine. Belarus on the border. And then they beat Omonia Nicosia at Tynecastle. And then there's three separate teams in the playoff round just now, the Conference League, and one of them's going to go through because I think Omonia are playing Paphos. So one of them's definitely going to go through, doing really well just now at separate football. But the Hearts, that was them. Every game they were involved in was 2-0, 2-1 or 2-2 in the Conference League. They lost their next three. Heidenheim at home, Kerkelbrug away from home, and it's when Lawrence Shankland, who I still wanted to sign him in the summer. I thought I might sign him in the winter there. He missed a penalty late on to equalise against Kerkelbrug, who then went up the park at the Jan Bredow where Bruges play. It's the Bruges derby. And they made it 2-0. That was probably the moment that they threw it away effectively. Copenhagen, they lost Copenhagen in Denmark, but they then drew it home. In the last game, they drew it home with the club who finished bottom, Petrol Club in Chesty of Moldova. They drew 2-2 with them Hearts. And that meant that there's like 5 clubs finished on 7 points exactly in the Conference League, and Hearts were bottom of those 5 clubs on 7 points. And that meant 24th place, the first of the 12 places that got automatically put out in the group system there in the Conference League, the same as it is, apart from the number of games played, as the other two competitions. So it was really, really, I think they had the same goal difference as the Baka Topola, the Serbian club. They had the same kind of goal difference as them, but I think they had scored fewer goals, TSC, and out they went. Even last night, James Wilson's record is the Conference League's youngest scorer. I think he scored against Petrol Club. That went last night when a young 16-year-old for Shamrock Rovers scored away at Molde. Scored Shamrock Rovers at winner at Molde, our old European opponents in Norway there. So they've been flirting with the relegation spots domestically early in the season, Hearts, and I think that the European thing was really draining them. Right now, though, they're a point behind Motherwell in 6th, and if they win this game, they will go above Hibs, currently 5th, who kick off at 2 p.m. They'll temporarily at least go above Hibs, who are currently 5th, who kick off at 2 p.m. On Sunday. We're kicking off at 12. They beat St Mirren penalties after extra time on Monday night, of course. Hearts threw it Paisley. They'll be exhausted. They've played a day later than us when the game went into penalties and everything. They'll be exhausted in this one, not anyway, but they will be psyched, they'll be confident, or maybe hopefully too relaxed compared to the pressure they were feeling earlier this season domestically. We've got a great record against Hearts, let's say, over the last few seasons. That draw in the last minute, they equalised the last kick of the ball of the league season. That absolutely gutted me. That meant that we failed to beat them in all 6 games. We played them, the 4 games in the league, played them the semi-final of the Scottish Cup and the semi-final of the League Cup, beat them the 2 times at Hampden as well, and that was the game that stopped us, that last second equaliser stopped us having a 100% record against them last season. And straight away this season we drew 0-0, our first game of the season in August at Tynecastle, our first league game. Hearts under Stephen Naismith. We were pretty awful that day. Both teams not very impressive. The finishing of Cyril Dessers becoming a problem for us, we thought, that day. We beat them 1-0 in November at Ibrox under Neil Critchley. Cyril Dessers scoring the only goal of the game after 6 minutes. It was a grind. It was a real struggle what we got there. So I don't know. I don't know what's likely to happen on Sunday. I just know that Rangers really look. We can talk about. I'm talking about Hearts in Europe. It's an excuse to deviate and talk about Europe. I've got an excuse to talk about Europe. Let's thank Fenerbahce for that. Where does the H go? Where does the H's go with Fenerbahce? I don't like Fenerbahce. I don't want us to get them for many reasons. But hopefully, and the other thing is, same with Shakhtar Donetsk. And Shakhtar Donetsk won their only European trophy, their only European final in Fenerbahce's ground. The season after, in 2009, the season after we were in the UEFA Cup final, they won the last UEFA Cup final. Did Shakhtar Donetsk at Fenerbahce's grounds. Last night it was the 4 clubs that we could potentially meet in the next round. If you're a Fenerbahce, Anderlecht, Twente or Bodo Glimt fan, you're sitting thinking, no, Anderlecht fans are sitting thinking we're out because Fenerbahce beat them 3-0 in the first leg, but you're thinking, who do we want? Do we want to get Olympiacos, or do we want to get Rangers? That's who they can face, Olympiacos or Rangers. That's who they'll get in the last 16 if they go through. Us or Olympiacos. Well, Olympiacos are a European trophy holder, the Conference League holders, but Rangers went over there and they drew 1 each with them. They drew in their back, and it's a difficult place to go at the best of times. Greece, never mind Piraeus, never mind when they're actually a European trophy holder. So, but then look at Rangers, they get beat by Queen's Park in the Championship last week. Maybe they're a bit crap. despite all the back cam stuff we see of them in Europe over the past few years. The back cam along the underside of the club deck roof, they look like an amazing support. Seems like an amazing stadium. They get some cracking results. But Queen's Park, oh no, it turns out Queen's Park have reached the Challenge Cup final. So that's like, that's the Conference League of Scottish Cups. So yeah, there's no great shame in that. Fenerbahce beat Anderlecht 3-0 last night in their first leg. They're the most kind of Hollywood of all the teams we could meet. They've got Jose Mourinho's their manager. They've got the best team by a mile. Amrabat and Fred, both ex-Man United. Excuse me, Brazilian, Moroccan. Amrabat playing in the Moroccan team that got to the semi-finals of the last World Cup there. On loan from Fiorentina. Was it Dusan Tadic? 36, Edin Dzeko 39. That's not the times of the goals. That's their ages. But Edin Dzeko, Dusan Tadic, and then Enyasiri, the guy who scored the winner against Portugal in that famous quarter final, the day that Michael Beale made his debut as Rangers manager against Bayer Leverkusen. He's that night, Enyasiri, or just at the exact same time that afternoon, he scored the only goal of the game against Portugal, the biggest win in Morocco's history. They went through at the World Cup semi-final. Excuse me, but sniffing. He plays for them as well. They get a hell of a team. Fenerbahce, I do not want to get them. Turkey, a tough place to go at the best of times, but Jose knows a thing or two about winning European trophies, even though Fenerbahce have never made a European final. Anderlecht, on the other hand, they're the most storied of the 4 teams that we can possibly get in the next round. They've played in 7 European finals. Won the Cup Winners' Cup a couple of times, won the UEFA Cup. Never reached the European Cup final, but absolutely massive, the European history, but they were absolutely gubbed last night. I watched a bit of 20 against Bodo Glimt, 20 winning 2-1 on the night in the Netherlands in the first leg. In Enschede, they scored 5 minutes into the game. Bodo Glimt equalised with 5 minutes to go, the 90, and then 20 scored the winner. I think it was a penalty, 5 minutes into injury time. So it's a tight game. Bodo Glimt, they're the kind of hipster club, never been in a European final. Obviously, they barely started winning trophies in Norway. They're kind of a new phenomenon there, but their season doesn't start until the end of March, their domestic season. So I thought 20 might have cuffed them a bit more convincingly last night, but I like the idea that they're still kind of pre-season, so maybe we want to get them. But 20 is the one that I want, because they're the most wanted by me in terms of all the teams we can get in this last 16, because they've played in a European final, and I never in a 1975 UEFA Cup final, and I haven't seen them. I've got my Anorak list I need to tick off. Viking, who are also in the Conference League, are playing at HJK Helsinki's ground versus Panathinaikos, who they beat. So that's Paphos. They played at the ground that we played Aris Limassol, that stadium in Limassol. They're playing there, and Almaty. That's hosting Astana's games. Astana are playing their games at Almaty, which is 1,200 kilometres away in Kazakhstan, apparently. But that completes the list that I started in another pod of all the teams that have been playing home games away from home. At least a list that includes Rangers. Dynamo Kiev playing in Hamburg. Their group games, playing at the Volkspark Stadium, their group games in this Europa League group stage after having played at Lublin, Motor Lublin's ground, and against us in the Champions League qualifiers. So Barcelona, of course, are playing at the Olympic Stadium in Barcelona, where the new camp's getting done up. There is somebody else really obvious that I haven't mentioned, but I covered most of the teams who are playing home games at somebody else's grounds in Europe this season. Any excuse to stop talking about Rangers, and I think the manager himself, Philip Clement, would like that excuse to stop talking about Rangers in today's vicious press conference. It was normalising meetings with Patrick Stewart. He's getting asked today in the press, come on. So Patrick Stewart, this meeting with him that we'd all heard about, he's basically that's what I usually do. I usually talk to him before and after games, because he's a chief executive. We've got a working relationship. It wasn't a showdown, he's trying to say, and he's abnormalising us losing a game in which we had so many chances. He's basically it was a freak result against Queen's Park because we created so many chances. The reality for Rangers fans who were there or who watched the game on telly is, we created lots of chances, but Queen's Park's game plan, they were on it, they were concentrating, they were executing their game plan to perfection. Our game plan was lax. Our execution was terrible. The attitude was awful. He was invoking Stuart Kettlewell having to resign from the Otherwell job because of abuse from fans, and pointing out that there were kids nearby when he was getting the abuse from fans leaving the stadium last Sunday based from Rangers fans. But he was asked about, didn't bring it up out of nowhere. He was asked about how he feels with the abuse he's been getting. And he was pointing out the European success that we've had this season. And I think it was Brian McLaughlin, the BBC Edinburgh football man, who pushed the line, which I don't actually believe, that domestic success outstrips European success. Also, European success is just it's a bonus. It's all about winning trophies in Scotland. And Clement wasn't having that correctly. He kind of fought his point there. He understands our frustration at the result, but he focuses on their decision making in the final third against Queen Park. The lack of tempo, the lack of urgency. He's trying to explain it away in a way that just won't be accepted in Scotland. Rangers losing this game. He's taken the emotion away from it, the history away from it. But that's what's got us to the point where Ronnie Esplin just said to him at the end that the fans will be disappointed that you're still in situ. How do you work through that kind of negativity? And he was trying to explain how he's, and he said, but that was the last. Ronnie saying, but that was the last straw last weekend. That was the final act. So Clement comes back to, well, that's what you say. You're saying it's the final act. I think most people would agree with me, says Ronnie. Now that's Ronnie Esplin. That's a book, 10 Days at Shook Rangers, that Ronnie edited, and myself and Colin Armstrong of Jersnet fame, Colin of just general fame, more than myself, we both get articles in there. That's the Advocate Years, a book that myself I wrote with Ronnie Esplin there, and that's Barcelona Here We Come, a book that I wrote with Ronnie Esplin there, and like Jerry McNee in a Sporting Question all those years ago, I'm just using it to explain to you how much that man has let me down, how much that man, a former colleague who I made Ronnie, or did he maybe just ask me to if I wanted to do some work with him, and the patience of a saint as I tried to get cobbled together some sort of, like any chance you're going to do your share of the work. I don't know, Ronnie. I'm not very good at this kind of stuff. It was outstanding. It was quite a moment. It was I've put together all these excuses for Clement, all these long explanations as to why it might be we should hold on to him, we shouldn't jump the gun, and we should at least give him the European stuff. And Ronnie's just giving it, no, you're done. Why are you still here, basically? And it was quite a kind of moment. You go, aye, maybe you're right, Ronnie. I think that's probably what it's all about. Yanis Hadji looked devastated when he was put out as a player to talk to the media today. A moment to take a step back and reflect on the situation. It was unacceptable. He's saying kind of homilies and platitudes and truisms from Yanis, but he was clearly feeling it. It's about how you react to these defeats, etc., etc. And somebody said, "Was it your worst day ever?" And he was talking about, Romania failing to get past Iceland in a World Cup qualifier. That was devastating. But then, and somebody, Alison, excuse me, I don't know who Alison works for. You have to excuse my ignorance, but she'd said, "Is there too many of these moments this season?" That was a killer question as well. That was an absolute killer. And there are too many moments this season, and you could see that Yanis Hadji was trying to think, well, I can't. He said, well, I can't say no, because that means that I think it's acceptable to have so many bad moments in a season. But he's also saying that he said it's not a nice place to be. People are going to take that as a meaning. Ibrox right now isn't a nice place to be. He just means this situation where Rangers have had this humiliating defeat. But I think he says on it being a learning season, and that's what it is for you. If you put together Clement's responses today, until Ronnie got hold of him, with his post-match interview with Amy Irons in Premier Sport last Sunday, he clearly sees it in a very kind of mechanical, objective, cold, perhaps even ruthless fashion. We are rebuilding. He sees that it's a rebuild season. We rise above our expected level of performance in Europe. And we hit that expected level of performance in most of our home league games, and we drop below it in most of our away domestic games. But Queen's Park, for him, I suspect, is just kind of dip under is it the median, you would call it? Just a dip that's going to happen. And it's compensated for, as far as he's concerned, probably, and for me, in many ways, by like winning in Malmo and winning in Nice and drawing with Olympiacos and stuff like that. And he kept hitting the European thing today as a kind of saviour. But I think that's the big, maybe cultural difference. And it's a bit where I just become pure domestic, never mind your European stuff. We don't lose home games in the Scottish Cup. I don't know if it's something we have to get over. We don't lose home games in the Scottish Cup to lower league sides. Well, we do now. We've just done one. But that's clearly what the manager's at, and I don't know. A part of me thinks that is what we have to get on board with. If we've been all the signs this season where it's a rebuild, all the intimations from Clement himself, what he went through in the summertime, not knowing who he's working for, who he's working with, if he was going to get any money, never getting the amount of money anywhere like it that he was looking for, not even knowing who was signing off on signings, not knowing what our home stadium was. I feel as if he's due at least the end of the season. Europe isn't a sop; it's a huge bonus, and it's some sort of kind of reassurance of competence. But boycotts and stuff like that, all I can say to people planning to walk away for Rangers, and we don't do walking away. Remember that. Also, the man who said that, remember another chant: Ali, get to fuck, Ali, get to fuck. The slagging Ali McCoystook. He was the worst striker in the world, as far as we were concerned, and it comes back to be one of our greatest players and one of our greatest figures in our history, still representing us wherever he goes, Ali. No point, even if we win at Tynecastle. Well, of course there is. It still is a write-off season. It's all about next season, and we were told that. So we need to go into what we do on Sunday as part of how we're going to go into next season. Constant learning. Queen's Park is the proof that this squad's still in incubation. You take last Sunday. If you take last Sunday as a starting point, that's how bad we can be. Everything that's happened to us over the summer, the amount of players that we've lost, the fact that our board, our actual boardroom, the executive level is still getting cobbled together. Suddenly, the fact that we won't be caught by a third place side in the Premiership, and the fact that we pumped Celtic in the 2nd of January, the fact that we're in the last 16 of the Europa League, that's suddenly all great signs of potential. Reminders that the manager knows what he's doing in many ways. He's just in the process at this precise point in time of getting the ingredients together, of trying to find the money to shop for the ingredients for his perfect recipe. But he's struggling just now. He's struggling. The mainstream media are turning against him. People who actually know what they're talking about are turning against him. He's only got saddos like myself sticking up for him. Remember when you're wee? You remember when you're young, like 10, 11, you're kind of pubescent, particularly into your early teenage years. Excuse me. I used to get a t-shirt. I used to wear t-shirts, and it was like electric. It was the greatest feeling in the world. Like having maybe got your school disco and you got your best clobber on. That was great. Just that kind of feeling of being young and just, oh my god, everything's an adventure. I've got this new gear and I look bloody brilliant. And then I was wearing t-shirts. I used to go to, if you're my age, you'll remember this. I'd go to Blackpool and Great Yarmouth, Scarborough, all these places on holiday. My mum and dad was as a kid, and then you got to like kind of 11, 12, and you're liking your music and that, and you'd go to these the stalls would be selling t-shirts. But like, for me, it was the specials. Like the specials t-shirt. Picture this, the special, that one where they're looking up at the camera on the specials standing together with kind of the two-tone checks going across the top and all that black t-shirt, the specials. Now you're walking about the streets with this. No, I go, where'd you get that? Oh, I got it in Blackpool. Yeah, trendy, Susie and the Banshees. I used to get hundreds of Susie and the Banshees t-shirts. And it's something I kept going. There was a lassie who worked in a card shop in Sockets, who was about a year older than me, and my mum said the lassie in the card shop was asking, if you like Susan and if you got any Susan the Banshees albums and all that. And that's just, I'm in with the older chicks just because of a t-shirt. Here, the Susan the Banshees, phenomenal. So I bought 215 get well soon cards. Deepest sympathy. Just to go in and try and work up the guts to talk to her. This is the happy house. But look at Che Guevara. I didn't know a thing about politics, obviously. No, now Che Guevara. No, we're not to Ibrox. It was like the iconic poster of Che Guevara. It was a thing in the kind of late 70s, early 80s. I had that up in my bedroom. Didn't know anything about my mother, but my dad telling me about the Bolivian police beating him to death and stuff like that. But I thought, oh, Che, look, he's got the beard and he's got a beret. Oh my God, this guy's amazing. Yeah, and it was a Che Guevara t-shirt and thought, oh, Che Guevara t-shirt, pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I don't know, I just have that. And it's something that carried on until I was like 22, but in my early 20s, I remember getting a Franz Beckenbauer t-shirt. Probably there wasn't the internet in the days. I sent away for When Saturday Comes magazine or something, some strange t-shirt sellers. And it was, you get a Franz Beckenbauer as a picture of Der Kaiser strolling forwards with the ball coming out of the libero strolling forward out of defence into midfield with the ball, quite imperious. And he's got the Spielfuhrer armband and the long sleeves, Deutscher Fußballbund crest and all that. And I think that's cool. And I remember washing it, and it shrunk before I could get my mate Alan, who he hated Germany, but he supported Italy. He loved Italy. The Italy national team, and I was like, I liked the Italy national team as well, but I kidded on to him that I hated them because I was all about Germany. That was my second international team as well, and I was going to go and meet Alan for a few pints, and I was going to wear my Franz Beckenbauer t-shirt, and I was like, and I wasn't muscle bound, so it wasn't very good, but I was absolutely gutted. But I get that real feeling of it's like you're kind of you get your tastes plastered all over your chest. Kind of, and sometimes it's just a picture. As I say, you were letting folk know what you were all about, and life was a great adventure. And there's all these, and if I'm this hip and this cool at 12-year-old, what my declarations to the world about how cool I am are going down so well? What's it going to be when I'm like 55? I've got all these decades of getting even cooler and even hipper all the time, to the point of I'll just be unbearably cool and on point. It turns out you're a fat, bald, morbidly obese bore who's going on podcasts to tell everybody, please, going to renew your season ticket. It's going to be all right. Going to just stick by. Philip Clement, don't. I know getting put out of the Scottish Cup by a team for the lower leagues is really embarrassing, but just going. It's aye. Are there any lows left? Are there any lows left to plough? Surely the only way is up. Folks, I hope you have an absolutely lovely Valentine's night. I will come back to you with, I promise you, a very short post-match reaction. It was 1 hour 48 last Friday. It was 2 hours. That was the nadir. 2 hours on Wednesday, the pod. An hour and 20 minutes here. It'll be a half-hour job on Sunday because I'm going to have a totally chilled out holiday extended weekend, and I hope Rangers can keep that going with a bit of a result at Tynecastle, and a lot less headaches, a lot less gripes, a lot less calamity in Georgie. Enjoy the game, folks. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.